All right. When I started doing 54 minutes live with insert name of legend here this fall into the winter, we had on some of the big names in the industry: Sarek, Hiding, Booker, Larry Ramsell, Jeremy Smith. I've been looking at the history of the sport, and a lot of times it's been who is next in line to be that next quote unquote legend. And my guest tonight is probably one of the modern day legends of the sport, certainly carving out a niche for himself. And it was obvious that it was one person that I wanted to talk to. He came onto my radar, like a lot of people, with his Week on the Woods series. And tonight I do have on Doug Wagner from Doug Wagner Fishing, somebody that needs no introduction, especially in the YouTube world. And we're going to touch on that. So, Doug, thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate you taking the time as you're leading into your opening weekend down on Green Bay. So, welcome to 54 or Bust.
No, thanks, Glenn. Yeah, that's a little bit of an overshot intro, I would say. I don't know about all that legend talk, but it's been a fun ride so far. It's crazy, like, to think how far back some of that stuff happened and how long ago some of that stuff was. And it's hard to, when you live the busy lifestyle of guiding and especially doing multi-species and extending your season like I do, to basically fishing from the middle of March until, last we fished till November 26th. And then all the other things that come with the business and the guiding and all the other things that I do, it's hard to just sit back and look back at what you've all accomplished or done or really reflect on everything. So it's kind of crazy how time flies, I would say. But I know you and I were just talking before we started here, and you asked what year we filmed Week on the Woods. And like, when I say 2016 and 17, it's like, holy crap, that's 9 years ago. Like, it doesn't, that's crazy to me. And like, it feels like I just started guiding a couple of years ago. I just started my 7th season doing this full time. So it's been a crazy, time flies when you're having fun. I guess that's a line for a good reason, because it's been a really fun ride. There's been a lot of awesome stuff that's happened along the way. I've met some incredible people, done some amazing things. And honestly, I think it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. I got some exciting stuff coming this year, and more trips and meeting more people and expanding everything. And I think there's just a lot of fun stuff to go looking forward. And not that I'm chasing, being a quote unquote legend, or that I want to be a legend, but I feel like I got 50 years of shit still to do before you can put that label on my name by any means. I'm not accepting that at this point.
I think that most of my viewers and most of the people in the musky industry, and I don't usually think about what I'm going to say before I start. I let that come to me in the moment. And one thing that was kind of on the tip of my tongue today as I was thinking about it is, like a lot of people that have watched you over the years on YouTube and watched you on social media, and the writing you did with Musky Hunter magazine, and just watching you effectively grow up, in front of our eyes as a musky angler. A lot of us are jealous of what you've accomplished, and I can say I am too. And with jealousy brings contempt sometimes, that it's like, oh, why is he getting all these fish? But now that I've been inside the YouTube world and I've been in the musky industry enough, I realize how much hard work you've put in, and that all the accolades that anybody puts on you, it's well deserved, Doug. You've put the time in. It's not an easy industry to navigate, and it's not an easy sport to navigate, because you're always constantly judged by, what did you put in the boat today or yesterday? And I know you've went through dry spells. Our mutual friends, the Ables, have fished with you, and you've had dry spells just like everybody. Social media makes it seem like you catch a fish every time you're on the water, and it's not that easy. So I commend you for putting in the hard work. I would say that's what makes people go from good to great, because there's a lot of great anglers out there, but to be truly exceptional, you have to live and breathe it. And I know you do. The documentary that was called The Cult, and I used a little clip out of you when I was talking about one of my videos, that it's like it's your passion, and I love that. It's just, it's not me. I don't put as much into it as you do, and that's where the jealousy comes from me. I'm just like, I wish I could put so much into it, but I'm at a different point in my life, so I get to live vicariously through you. Talk about that hard work over these past, 8-9 years to get to the point where you're at today. What's the sacrifices like? And I do want to ask about some of your personal life, if we can go there, because I know you've made sacrifices. Just touch on that to start with, Doug.
Yeah, I think I mean there's a lot there in that question or statement, but I I did it, everything lined up for me the right way as far as timing, I would say, to do what I did. I think I started, obviously I've been addicted with muskie since I can remember. My dad fished him, my grandpa fished him. It's been a family deal. But as far as like, really being able to take it to the extreme level that I did, it was because of where like the age that I was at. When I started doing the YouTube stuff, I was like 19 years old. YouTube was very on the very front end of catching on. I was addicted with fishing. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have kids. I didn't have, right. I mean, I had a good job working construction. I was making good money, which was able to help me buy a boat, right, which gave me a lot more freedom to go and expand and fish southern Wisconsin and fish northern Wisconsin and the Great Lakes, and then into Minnesota and Lake of the Woods and all the other things that I expanded to do. So I was just lucky and fortunate that I grew up or was where I was at in the point that I was at. And like I said, a lot of it came to with the people that I met along the way and the people that took me under their wing. There's so many people that I have to thank that got me to where I'm at. I mean, I did a lot of the work and I put in a ton of work and an incredible amount of time and hours, but none of that would have got me to where I'm at without the people that got me there. And there's a long list, and we can go through them if you want. But there's a long list of people. Some people that, names that people on here would know, and some that, I don't think anybody would know. People that are in the industry, somewhat in the industry, but didn't say anything. And then people that weren't even in the industry or aren't even in fishing, but just taught me a lot of life's lessons, and just being a good person and all the other things that come with it. But I think it's rewarding, or, I totally understand, or, now understand, I would say, now that you're, in the YouTube game or trying to, create content and do all the other things and see the kickback from it. And you don't understand how much work it is until you do it yourself. It's easy to look from the outside looking in and say, oh, well, all he does is make videos and all he does is get to go fishing and all he does is this or that. And you chuckle because it is so much more than that. And that people see this much of, the barrel of water, it's just a drop in the bucket is what they see. They don't see all the failures. They don't see all the extra time that goes in. They don't see the editing time. They don't see the hard drive failures, or losing all the stuff, or, and even the times that it always seems like when you're filming, if you'd have to be all in or all out. I learned that a long time ago, because if you're just going to bring the cameras in the boat, you're just going to start fishing. And then all of a sudden something cool happens. You're like, oh my God, the cameras up. Then you put the cameras up and nothing cool happens. So like, you either need to go out, and if you want to do the game, and you have to film from the start to the end, which is a huge pain in the ass. It takes away a ton of fishing time. You're way less effective on the water. You're worried about other things that are going on. You're not completely focused on the fish. You've got a camera dying here. This thing's low on battery. That GoPro just turned off for the 5th time in 20 minutes, right? Like you can't focus on what you're trying to do. But it's just, there's so much that goes into it. And like I said, I was lucky to grow up in a time and have access to a place that, was really special. Ryan Schiller, the kid that filmed the Week on the Woods series, I still work with him. He does a lot of our membership content. He helps me out a lot. I hire him to do a lot of the stuff. A name that nobody here would know. And Ryan's caught, I think, one muskie. He caught it with us on the Week in the Woods series. But he taught me how to edit. He taught me how to film. He taught me how to do a ton of stuff. And without Ryan, right, I mean, to film it and to edit it, like I sat right next to him side by side editing the Week on the Woods series, it would take us about 3 days per one video to go through everything, but he taught me how to do everything. We looked through it all. I wanted to make sure it was all perfect. We'd be up till 1, 2 in the morning, and then I'd drive 45 minutes home back to my house and then go to work at 5:30, 6 in the morning, right? Like, it was incredibly exhausting. And it still is to this day, but I've got some amazing things that have come from it. Obviously the guide business kind of started from, and that was a whole nother avenue of someone taking me under their wing and pushing me to do something and push me out of my comfort zone. And look what it led me to. I mean, now I get to call it a job. And the YouTube things have kind of, I don't want to say have taken a back seat, but they're right aligned with me with my guide business, and everything is going together. And we have other things that are going on. We're working on products and doing other things, and there's so much that's came from just chasing the fish that I was addicted to, and then just happened to bring a GoPro along one day, and then happened to, get a little bit of this to happen the right way and a little bit of that to happen the right way, and meet the right person here and have the right connection there. And then all of a sudden it formed into, I guess, what it's been, or what everybody else sees, which is so small of a portion of what it actually is, as you know. But to put out the amount of stuff that we have, the quality of stuff that we have, has been a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun.
There's so much to really unpack in there. I want to give a shout out to those unsung heroes that are behind the scenes, that sometimes aren't the names or the people that the people see in the public. And to your Ryan, I have actually, ironically enough, another Wagner. Kevin Wagner is one of my best friends. He does work in the industry behind the scenes. He's a rep for like Eagle Claw Hooks and Frog Togs, St. Croix. He's became one of my dearest friends, and somebody who has helped me navigate the backside of the industry. And as well as I do, Doug, probably more than I do, that what people see on the outside is only a portion of what truly goes on inside this industry. There's so much for a small musky industry. There's so much that goes on. So yeah, shout out to those people that, help support us. And to your point about that little drop in the bucket, I don't know, the audience might hear my dog barking outside at something, but that little drop in the bucket that you see on YouTube, you're right. We learned very early on that if you didn't put the cameras up the minute the boat got in the water, you missed the best figure eight catch of the year. And I don't really want to go down this road right now, Doug, but because you brought it up, what lessons did you learn the hard way of, damn it, I didn't put the cameras up and we missed something? Everybody that's ever bought a GoPro knows they're probably the biggest POS on the market. But for every person that's watched you, and then a year or two later watch Scaife, and then a year or two later, maybe watch Ben Stone or whoever it is, or like last year, John and Ashley with Devoted up on Loch Sewell, and that just a massive muskie. Every person that's ever watched any of that and got inspired to buy a GoPro, we all owe you a debt of gratitude. But what turned you from, oh, we'll just get the cameras up when we get a chance, to that's what we do? Like, what's that story like?
It's tough because there's time I don't film every day. I can't. I physically and mentally can't film every day. I'd say my biggest regret looking back, or the biggest thing I learned, is put everything on 2 hard drives, not just one, because we had a hard drive failure. We had a hard drive crash, and we lost, I think it was 5 days of a Week on the Woods series. We lost that from the first year, I want to say. I think we only got 5 days out of it, and I think we had a 10-day trip, and we lost the best stuff that we had. And it's crushing, right? And it's different. It's a different mindset. It's a different mentality. You're not just going fishing. It adds a whole nother, element to it that makes it so much harder and keeps everything going. But the way I look at it is I film stuff when I have the right people in the boat, customers that are comfortable with it, that are cool with it, that I talk to about it, say, hey, do you mind if we do this? Because I do film with some of my customers, and then obviously I film with a bunch of my friends as well. And there's still stuff to this day too that I film that I'll never post on social media. I'll never post on YouTube. I film it just specifically for myself. Um, the biggest muskie I've ever caught in my life I have on film, and it's never seen the light of day, and it never will. It's something that was really special with a couple buddies, and it's the biggest muskie I've ever caught in my life. And I have it all on film. It's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. Like the footage is insane, but I filmed it for myself. I want it to be for myself. I don't want anybody to see it. And it's funny, I made even last year. It's so funny because I get this rap, I would say, that people think that wherever I'm fishing is I'm filming all the time. I'm going to blow up every single fishery that's there. I've got accused of blowing up Lake of the Woods. Like, no one knew there was muskies there before 2017 and whatever else. I've got accused of this. Well, I went and made a trip last year to a location and got saw by a couple locals, and borderline death threats, right? Like, you're not coming to my waters, you're not filming here, you're going to blow this up all over freaking YouTube and social media and Facebook, this, that, and the other. And I didn't even have any cameras in the boat. I just had a buddy with me, and we just went fishing for a week in a place that I'd never been. We caught some really big fish. We had a really good time. But I knew going into that trip that I wasn't going to film anything. I just wanted to go and experience it. And we took pictures of some big fish that we caught and had some good times, but none of those pictures ever seen the light of social media. Nothing ever got filmed. The cameras didn't even come in my boat. And there's definitely an on and off switch for me when I do film and when I don't film. Certain places and certain people I film with, and then certain places and certain people I don't film with. And that's the other incredible thing, is like the amount of stuff that I can still produce, and a lot of it's the fishery. Like, the places that I'm fishing are just spectacular. Obviously, Lake of the Woods is one that I fish a lot and film on a lot. It's, you could argue, the best musky fishery in the world. You're going to get a lot of opportunities. You're going to get a lot of chances. And you want to have, you can put in all that work to keeping the cameras going and putting them up and dealing with the GoPro shutting off all day long, because you're going to get something. You're going to get something throughout that day. Whereas if you're fishing on, say, if I'm guiding on Green Bay, there's plenty of days that I zero. Plenty of days. You're fishing the Great Lakes. It's the most fickle and unstable fishery that I've ever dealt with, is the Great Lakes. And it's crazy. It does some wild stuff, but there it's like I can't physically or mentally deal with that on top of filming, right? So it's just, there's places that I film, there's places that I don't, there's people I film with, there's people I don't film with, and there's things that I film that I've captured that no one will ever see.
I think that's interesting, and I think your place in the industry now has kind of afforded you that you can produce content when you want, or when it's viable for you and your brand to put content out. And I think people sometimes forget that you're a full-time guide, you're not a full-time content creator, and those are two vastly different things. And I
It's different
think,
jobs.
yeah, and I think that there's a group of musky anglers that just want to be content creator famous, and not musky angler famous. That didn't even sound right, but you know what I mean. Like, they don't want to be known as just a musky angler. And I'll just speak for myself. I kind of fit in between there. We started the YouTube thing just as we're going to film anyway, so let's do something. And we are located where everybody comes on vacation to go musky fishing. So why not film all the lakes? We try not to give the names out, but like, even when I talk to Sarek's like, I could tell you guys are on Cedar. I know that rock. I know that spot. So you're not hiding a lot. And there's a whole discussion around YouTube blew up musky fishing. Well, before that, it was Musky Hunter TV, it was KO TV, it was, it was Pete Mena filming with Gillespie. I mean, this argument can go any which direction. So it's easy for people to sit behind the keyboard and be like, Doug Wagner blew up Lake of the Woods. That's just not true. And we get that, as content creators. But I do think that there's that difference between being a full-time angler and being, a full-time content creator. And I think for myself, I viewed you for a long time as a content creator who fishes a hell of a lot. And I think when you started your membership group, there clearly you got some blowback. And to your credit, you wrote it out. I think it would have been easy from the outside to just throw the towel in and be like, well, okay, shit, we're just going to go free. I want to get a sense from you, Doug, and then after that, let's go back to that week on the woods. But when you decided that you needed your content to have a little bit more to it than just being free on YouTube, what was the thought process behind that? And was that really a tough decision, or was that easier than people would think?
No, it was an incredibly tough decision, and it had a lot to do with growing up. You know, I talked about how when we started the whole thing and did the Week in the Woods series and I started filming all this stuff, I was 18, 19, 20 years old and was young enough to have the time to do it. And I got to a point in my life, not only just my fishing career, I mean, this was in 2021. I think we launched the membership. We've been we're 2.5 years in on the membership. So whatever that is, but regardless, my life had changed. My business had changed. A lot of things. I did a lot of, you could call it growing up. You could call it what you wanted, but things in my life had just changed. And I had to look at the amount of time that I was putting in to YouTube and to, that content creation, and then what I was getting out of it and what I was getting back for it, because there's only so much time. At the time when I started, I didn't have a serious girlfriend. I didn't have anything, right? It was myself. It was me, myself, and I. And then when I met Jessie, things changed, and I had to grow up a little bit, and I had to put time in different places. And people are like, oh, well, you just fish with your wife all the time. Well, all you see is the fishing. You don't see the editing. You don't see all the time that it takes away from everything else that you're doing, let alone my wife was living in Canada. I was living in the States. I can only spend so much time there. We hit COVID, and then there was a huge miscommunication between the border and my wife. And anyways, my wife got locked out of the country for 3 years, and I was seeing Jessie on average for 40 to 50 days per year. And then out of those days that I was not guiding and able to go and see her, there was still content or videos that I was trying to put out and keep up with this and keep up with that. And I was, spending 8 to 12 hours editing a, 15 or 20-minute video, putting it out on YouTube and getting $20 to $40 back in AdSense revenue with it. So at that point, do I spend the 12 hours to sit and jam my keyboard to make $40, or do I spend that time with my girlfriend, with someone who now has been my wife and has been the most amazing person in my life? So I had to weigh, what you're putting into what you're getting out. And not to say, people saying, well, that's what made your guide business, that's what made this, that's what made that. It definitely helped my guide business. There's no doubt about it. Did I go about, I think I knew I was going to get blowback before I even did it. And I went into it very defensively. And if I could go back and do it over again, I would go into it and explain it a lot better to start. But I didn't do a good job of explaining it to start. I went out with it knowing I was going to get blowback, and kind of went out there already being defensive about the whole situation, and was very standoffish about it. And I didn't let people really see the inside, and not that it was any of their business what I was making as far as money off of YouTube, and it didn't matter because it was pennies, right? But I went into it very defensively. And the one thing that was interesting is that I didn't know, there was no, this is how you should do it, this is how you should do that, because no one had ever done it. And it was something where I was to the point in my life where I was either going to continue to make educational content, which is what I enjoyed doing, educational with some, entertainment style content at the same time. I was either going to continue to do that and get some kind of revenue back for it, where it was worth my time, or I was just going to quit because it wasn't worth my time anymore. I didn't have the time to do it. Now add in, now I've been married for 5 years. I'm knocking on the door of having kids and doing this, and life changes. I mean, you've said the same thing in your videos. You have a wife and kids and things at home that you have to take care of. And unfortunately, YouTube and a YouTube channel and everything else, if it's not your main source of income, that's going to go secondary or third in line or fourth in line or further down the line to what does provide for your family, put food on your table, and, make yourself a living. It's just, you can't, even to this day, 90% of my income is guiding. That's what it is. So I have to put my customers ahead of my YouTube channel. You just have to look at it in that perspective, and really line up with what matters and what you need to spend your time and energy on, more so one versus the other. It wasn't anything against anybody. It was just, I looked at it, I was like, I can't do this for $40 a video. I can't.
No, and I think, like I'd said, I think even off air when we were talking, when you did it, I felt a little bit betrayed. That was like, oh shit, there's gonna be like, and everybody knew because there was no content from you for like a whole summer. Like something was happening. I heard behind the scenes kind of where you were going with things. And at first I was like, well, I'm not sure this is the smartest, business decision you've ever made. And then as I got deeper into YouTube, and I'm only a fraction of what you do, and some of the other, top YouTube guys that have, a wealth of content, I started to see that you're right. I have a family, some young kids, my parents were aging, my mom just recently passed. Things are different in my life, and where your priorities are has to change. But I look at our core audience as they've been loyal to us, like your core audience was loyal to you. If there's a way to make that work, we want to try and do that. And
Mhm.
I like I said, I commend you for toughing that out and getting it to a point where you feel comfortable with it now. And I do think that a lot of people watch stuff on YouTube, or whether it's your favorite TV show on, on TV, when it quits or it ends or the series is over, it's like, how could you do that to me? I'm the one that's essentially, like your audience paying your bills. I'm the one that's giving you a way to get it to the masses. And again, I think that we need to be, aware of the fact that you're a professional guide. And I've said it to everybody I've had on this podcast, like, you guys that go out there and do this every single day. I guide a few days, in the summer, and my hat goes off to you guys to do what it is that you do every single day. It's not a job that I could do. I wouldn't enjoy it. I would start to dislike the sport. So, hats off to you, Doug, to do that and to stick to your guns through that membership thing. Now it's an industry model. People are doing it. Like, I started a Patreon for some of our quote unquote super fans. And that's something else that I learned early on, just listening to other podcasts. Smart Passive Income, Pat Flynn, he wrote a book called Super Fans, and you only need 1,000 super fans to really have your back versus having 100,000 casual fans. When you have that core group of super fans, and I know you have that, Doug, it you can make a lot happen with that core group of fans. So, that's, I'm sure that was part of your decision. But let's change gears here a little bit. There's so many places I want to take this off of what you said there, because it echoes a lot of what I feel in the industry. And I only guide a few days a year, and I only make a little bit of content, but I I feel a lot of your sentiment in that. But I want to go back to A Week on the Woods, because I think for a lot of people, that's where Doug Wagner fell onto their YouTube channel, onto their YouTube feed. And when you guys went there to do that, did you think, and I know you'll say you didn't really see it, but looking back now, when you guys went there to film and do, a professional job at the time, did you think you would look back 9+ years later and realize that you guys really started something there? Like, I would say that you started the modern day, let's put a GoPro up in our boat and film. And I'll let you answer that, and then I want to take that to you and Jessie, because I think that was the next logical step into what you've inspired other people to do. But look back on that, that week on the woods, and what was your thought process? Did you think it was going to stand the test of time?
No, so the whole thing was actually, if you rewind to we filmed it in 16 and 17. So if you rewind to 2015, my buddy Forrest, you said he was on obviously Week on the Woods. Forrest was working with. He was still in college. He was guiding in the summers. His grandparents have a cabin on Oak Island in the Northwest Angle. And Forrest was, just kind of starting guiding. He was still going to college, going to get a degree, and didn't know if he was, what he was going to do. Right, he wanted to finish his college first and see where that left him. But he always would guide in his summers. He guided with a ton of walleyes, and he would guide a little bit of muskies here and there. But muskies are what he really loved. So I actually ended up meeting Forrest in 2014. If we go back another year even further, so 11 years ago, I met Forrest and we kind of hit it off. And then fast forward to the next summer, one of the local resorts, Sunset Lodge, who we worked with a lot, wanted to shoot somewhat of a musky promo video for the lodge. And they asked Forrest, who did a little bit of guiding out of the lodge, if he would be willing to, take 3 days and take a camera guy and go out and try and catch some muskies and film a little, promo video or something for Sunset Lodge on Oak Island. So at the time, Forrest said, I'd love to this, that, or the other. Well, Forrest actually reached out to me and said, hey, I've got this thing that Sunset Lodge wants me to do. They're going to send up a camera guy for 3 days to shoot a promo, but I need somebody to fish with. Do you want to fish together? And I said, yeah, absolutely. That'd be cool. So we go up, and the camera guy that they hired, this company or whatever, and this camera guy that comes up, his name's Ryan Schiller. He's a kid. He's a year younger than me. I mean, so this was 2014. So I was 20 years old at the time, right? So Forrest, I think, is 2 years older than me. So Forrest was 21 or 22, and I was 20. So anyways, it turns out this kid lives 45 minutes away from me in my hometown of Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, and Ryan Schiller lives in West Bend. So we go out and we film this. We catch some awesome fish. We had a really good suic bite actually going on at the time. We were crushing fish on suics. Had a really good shoot, good time, this, that, or the other. But me and Ryan kept in touch. And Ryan was telling me how he was trying to make it in the outdoor industry and wanted to be a camera guy, and was trying to get this content folder put together so that he could send it to different TV shows or people that were looking to hire a camera guy. And I said, well, hey, I said, I don't have the money to pay you, right? I'm 20 years old. I can't pay you to come out and film and all this stuff and edit all this stuff. But if you want to capture some cool shit, come back up next summer with me and Forrest. We'll go fishing for a week and we'll get you some really cool stuff. And the goal was to get Ryan a job in the outdoor industry. The goal was to get Ryan to film some awesome stuff so we could put it together in this portfolio and show how talented he was as a camera guy and also an editor, and then put that together for a portfolio for him to send it out to all these different TV shows or hosts or companies to hire him so that he could get a job in the outdoor filming industry. That was the whole goal. So when we put it all together, I said, and I had started the YouTube channel in end of 15. I think my first video was on Vermilion, 2015, the fall of 15 or 14, one of the two, but we needed somewhere to put it. So we decided to put it on my YouTube channel. Well, we did, Ryan and I started to think over the winter, what can we do? How are we going to do this? What are the dates? What are we going to name it? This, that, and the other. And we came together with a Week on the Woods and lined up the dates. We went up the next year, and that was the Week on the Woods, the first one. And then obviously was great. And then the next year we did our second one, and then Ryan got a job in the outdoor industry. It all worked out, and we made the Week on the Woods series along the way. And the Week on the Woods series absolutely blew up. Ryan got his job in the outdoor industry. And the rest is kind of history.
It's interesting how when you meet the right people and people come into your life at the right time, because there's times when you do meet people, but it's just not the right time for that relationship to, bear fruit, so to speak. And I'm sure you could echo that you've met so many people and you probably think, oh, one day, I'm gonna reach out to this person or this company. And it just people always think that, oh, you're in the musky industry and they look at your bait wall or my bait wall and they're like, well, they know everybody in the industry. Well, you do, but you don't it's not that every day you're in touch with every person. Like, people come and go, and you find the right people at the right time. And I think that story is so interesting, and the fact that what you guys did, I think if you would have went into it thinking this was gonna make Doug Wagner blow up, you would have filmed it different. You would have did things a little bit differently. So
Mhm.
I just think that the way it came across, and it's honestly, it was the template for a lot of years on what people did with destination videos. And it is to this day. Like last year, I see other YouTube channels, my week on the Shield, my week here, my this, there. You started, basically a trend in, video content. But fast forward to you and Jessie, and some of your best, most fun videos to watch are you and Jessie ripping around Pipestone and Lake of the Woods. And the one you did last year, and I mentioned to you off the air that your Pipestone opener from last year was probably, in my eyes, one of your very best videos, because it was the most honest. That it looked like you were in the boat. It looked like you had your guard down a little bit. It was just you and your wife, and you guys were just having a really good time. I know you've took some blowback for Jesse's potty mouth, talks like a sailor, but that is part of it. David and I had to learn, that the hard way. We've got footage too where we've caught some really nice fish, and we swore like sailors. Like, there's no amount of beeps that will take that out. So you guys, meaning you and Jessie, started that. Maybe you didn't start. There was other people that filmed with their wives or girlfriends, but I think you took that to the next level, to the masses. And now I see other couples that are mimicking what you guys do. How natural is that for you and Jessie in the boat to be like that and be so open on camera?
Oh, it's second nature to it. Like, we don't even that's literally who we are. Like, and that was the fun part. It was really cool to hear you when we talked earlier about, how you said that was one of your favorite videos, because I'm glad to see that, because I was kind of apprehensive about putting that out or what we were going to do with it. And I still want to create some kind of long form content on our public YouTube channel for anybody to watch. No subscription, no nothing, and still put some of that stuff out there. But it was kind of like, how do we do it? How do I do it different than how I've done it? How do we do it different than what other people are doing? And Jess has been around the cameras and all the stuff for so many years and for so long. Like, and I've finally it took me, I don't know how many years to finally get my camera shit dialed in, but like, now everything is super hands free. I have very few issues on the water. There's very low maintenance as far as like dealing with cameras and keeping them running and recording and everything else that goes with it. Um, that we can just fish and we can be ourselves, and I'm not uptight about getting the shot or getting this or doing that, because it's I don't feel the pressure anymore that I felt. I didn't feel it in the beginning when we started the Week on the Woods series. There's absolutely zero pressure. But and now there's zero pressure to capture, the shot or the thing on film or any of that anymore. But in the middle there, when I was still growing the channel, and it meant so much to me, and I was so consumed with it, it was so intense, and I didn't fish fluidly. It was always in the back of my head. I was always thinking about this or that, and I wasn't truly focused on fishing, and I couldn't relax. Whereas that video and that series really showed, us just being us and who we are and what we do. And yeah, my wife has a mouth on her. That's never been questioned by anybody. I'd say that's the Canadian in her, but that's why I love her, and that's what it's always been with us. We take shots at each other. We have fun. And I went at it when I went back and edited. I'm like, well, what am I going to have to do? Like, how many beeps am I going to have to put in here? How much stuff am I going to have to cut out? And I was like, you know what? In Jesse's words, fuck it. I don't care.
Yeah.
because I'm not worried about getting demonetized on YouTube. I'm not worried about any of this. I'm not worried about the $25 that this video is going to make me. I don't care. I'm going to show people what we do, how we do it, and it's as true and authentic as we get. Because I always used to get on Jess Butter potty mouth. You can't be doing this. You can't be saying that. You know, this, that, and the other. And it was just really relaxing to just go and fish and enjoy it. And I caught one of my biggest Canadian fish ever, and it's a cool story that, you know, it was incredible, and it all came together. We had an amazing 5-day trip, and it was super fun. And we've got another one coming in July that, you know, we took another trip last season, and it's another long form video, and it's just me and Jess fishing, and it's another really awesome video. We catch a really big one in it, and it's a good time. And I'm excited to share that one because there was so much good. There was definitely some bad, you know, like you said, blowback for Jess being Jess, but that's who she is. And if I'm at the point where if you don't like it, I'm sorry. Like, it's just, I'm not going to change who I am to make anybody else happy. I'm over trying to kiss people's asses, for lack of better words. This is who I am. You can kind of take it or leave it. And I'm not here to, I'm just going to be me. I'm not going to be anybody else or try to hide who I am or who my wife and I are. And, you know, we let the world see a little glimpse of our day-to-day fishing when we get to go fishing together. And, you know, the whole Jess thing it all kind of just fell in my lap, and it was incredible that she loved muskies before I even met her, and was addicted to them before I even met her. And I was able to teach her a lot, and we learned a lot from each other. And she's, you know, expanded my fishing a lot as well, and taught me a lot of things too. And we have a lot of fun together. But that's truly who we are. That's how we fish, and it's just fun. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, a lot of the pressure's off now, which is such a nice feeling.
I got a cool Jessie story when I first met her. But first, when I went through watching your videos, like I'd said earlier, every single person that's watching this has had a sense of jealousy to guys like yourself and guys at the top of the sport, because we all want to be that. But there was that little bit of, you know, sense of resentment. And I've told my friends for years now, I listen to so many podcasts and so many different genres. And if maybe it's a band that I really like, and I listen to a podcast, and you listen to somebody and it's like, oof, I just don't like that guy as much as I thought. Now I don't like that band as much as I thought. But then there's the opposite. You see something or you hear somebody talk, and it's like, oh, I really like that guy or that band or that person or that whatever. And when I watched that video, Doug, I the editor in me was like, ooh, he had a hard time not cutting that out, because you're right. You not change your style, but you let some things go through the cutting stage that, you know, maybe you would have cut before. And I was like, I like this new Doug. I like that you're letting some of this go through. And I think it was probably liberating for you on some level, like you're saying. And I think it was a really good step forward for, you know, what your brand is. So I think that you gained a lot of fans. Yeah, you got some people that, you know, are upset with the swearing or upset with this or that, but I think a lot of people can relate to you a lot more. And for the Jessie story, we were at the Nestor Falls Muskie Cup in, like, it was 2019, 2020. It might have been through COVID. Jessie shows up with one of her friends, and her friend's name escapes me. And they show up with a 17.5-foot camp boat tiller,
Yep.
and it stormed like hell all night. We wake up the second day and it's blowing hard. Dave and I made the corner at Cyclone, and we're like, yeah, this ain't happening. We're not heading way out to like the big stretch. And Jessie went all the way up to Miles in a camp boat. I was like, that girl's got balls of steel. And I think they got like at 145 that weekend, but she proved to everybody that was there. And I don't think she needed to, because I think a lot of the people there knew her. But when we sat down and talked to her a little bit at the hall that night, I was just like, good on you, girl, for taking that camp boat out there. And that just showed a lot of, you know, who she was, and you know, what she was willing to do. So yeah, no, I think that there was a lot of good things that you guys did doing your filming together, that it certainly has inspired a lot of other people, because I do see a lot of other couples on YouTube now that are clearly inspired by you. Do you do you ever think of that, Doug? Do you and Jesse sit and think like, oh, these people are doing something similar, or do you just let it be?
No, I mean, we just kind of let it be. I mean, we kind of do our own thing, and I think that's kind of what everybody's doing. I mean, if they're following our footsteps or whatever you want to say, I mean, you call it whatever you want, but I don't feel any pressure like, oh, that person's copying me, or this person's doing this, or this person's doing that because of me. I don't feel like anybody looks at me like that. I know you'd mentioned like the GoPro thing, or like filming trips or this or that. Like, I don't think I started any of that. I mean, and maybe some people think that's differently, and I wouldn't say that, or feel that those people are doing it because I did it. I mean, maybe that's the case, but that's not the way that I feel. There's no disdain towards anybody or like anything in that nature. I think it's if people and couples want to go fishing, that's great. And I think it's cool that you're able to do that with your significant other, and it shows a lot too that other people's lives are changing, and if they're going to put this much time into filming things or doing that, they're going to have to do it with their significant other, because it takes so much of your time that you either have to do it with them, or if you do it without them, then it takes up so much of your time that like you don't have the amount of time to make up that quality time with them, or to spend time with your other significant other that you need to have a healthy relationship with somebody, right? So if you can fish together, and you want to film it and do it together, good for you guys. That's awesome. That's great. I hope it's over. It'll definitely strain your relationship if you're serious about it. And the amount of times that me and Jess have argued about cameras and things turning off and this and that, and you got to film it this way or that way. Like I was pretty hard on her, to say the least, with a lot of the filming stuff when we began. And I still give her some shit here or there, but like I said, a lot of the pressure is kind of off. And I mean, what we did, and a lot of the reason that even going back to the membership thing is I knew that the industry itself is only so big. There's only so many people that fish for muskies. Muskies only live in so many places in the world, and there's only so many people that care about them. And even talking with some of the guys, like the guys that own Thorn Rods now, Kurt and Ben. Kurt's one of my best friends, and Kurt, is a super savvy business guy. He's super smart. Not to mention one of the best fishermen that I know. Like, the guy is absolutely an incredible angler. But just asking him like, hey, how many musky anglers, or he would talk about how many musky anglers there really were in the industry, and to qualify as one of those, being someone that maybe buys a couple baits every year, maybe they buy a rod, or they're actively keeping up with the times, or doing something to be involved in the musky industry. And he figured there's between 30 and 35,000 people in the musky fishing world that actually gave a crap about it. And I looked at my YouTube channel, I'm like, well, we're at like 24,000 people. So like, the people that we don't have probably don't have social media or don't have YouTube. Or the other side of that, the rest of the people don't want to subscribe, or don't like me as a person, or like my wife, or whatever the reasoning may be. So I had kind of capped out my platform, because I love musky fishing. That's what I want to do. And even my wife gives me crap like, well, you could do so much more if you expanded and did bass videos, or did more walleye videos, or expanded and do this and do that. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to fish muskies. I don't want to fish and spend time doing a walleye video on Lake of the Woods. I'm not on Lake of the Woods to go walleye fishing. If I want to go walleye fishing, it's going to be on Green Bay from March till the end of April, right? Like, I want to do what I want to do. And if it, I guess I kind of rambled on that, but
No.
we just kind of capped out what we had, and it was like, where do we go from here? Right.
And I respect that, because there's other people that do all kinds of multi-species, and like you look at Jay Siemens, and like his videography and his video work is probably some of the best.
Mm.
And again, he's somebody that inspires that next generation of content creators to make these cinematic videos that, while they are amazing, it it's all of a sudden it's becoming, if you're not doing that, you're not keeping up with that crowd, and it it becomes this endless chase of, are you just trying to chase that next thing? And I respect that you've stuck to what your passion is, and that comes through. Um, I want to go back to Thorn Brothers. We were just there a few weeks ago. Lonnie took us in the rod shop and took us for a full tour. It was amazing.
Heck yeah.
I've got a bunch of Thorn rods, hands down some of the best rods I've ever had. And the reason I went to Thorn rods is that I had had a couple issues with the telescopic rods spinning, collapsing on me, and I just wanted to go back to one piece rods. So that was a big part of my decision. And our mutual friends, the Abels, kind of pushed me to Thorn. And you are clearly the face of Thorn Brothers for all intents and purposes when it comes to, um, you know, who the public sees as running Thorn, Thorn rods, you and Luke, obviously. But talk about the Thorn rods, and for the people that are watching that have never, went to Thorn or never bought one of their rods, and they're thinking of, I want to get one. Let's start there, Doug, for like that first be all end all rod. I know there's no such thing, but there's a lot of new anglers that are looking to upgrade their rods. Where would you kind of recommend people start?
Yeah, I mean, first off, Luke is the face of Thorn Brothers, if anything, not me. Luke has been there forever. I mean, Thorn Brothers has been around for a really long time. It recently took new ownership in 2020 with Kurt and Ben, which was a really good thing. Josh had done a great job with the store, but some fresh blood and some new hunger, a little fire in the belly to grow the business is a really good thing. But as far as the rods, like I fished a lot of St. Croix stuff growing up. I was a huge St. Croix fan, and I think St. Croix made the best rods on the market for a long period of time. I do think that definitely pivoted. I do think, and can honestly say, like I get people that come in my boat all the time, and they bring their chaos rod, or they bring their innovations rod, or they bring their St. Croix rod, or they bring their tackle industry rods, this, that, and the other. And I don't know a single person in my boat that I've handed a rod to and they've said, wow, I like my rod better. That's just not, it's not a thing. And the one quote that I always think of, there was, it's a Facebook battle or whatever. Somebody posted something about, hey, think about getting some Musky rods. What do I get? And I remember Ty Sennett went on there and there was 100 comments, right? I mean, St. Croix, Chaos, everybody was pumping whatever they want. And Ty Sennett goes on there and goes, Thorn Brothers makes the best rod on earth. And if you don't think so, you're either have never used one or you're getting paid to say that you're not. And it hit home because it's so true. It's so funny. And I'm sure maybe some, personal preference is still a thing, but overall, like the stuff they make is absolutely incredible. Lonnie is incredible. All the guys up in the shop are incredible. They make some amazing stuff. I was lucky enough to be part of the Stealth project, which was a new line that we came out with probably 4 years ago. Little bit more affordable priced blank. Actually, it doesn't come from St. Croix. It comes from a different manufacturer out in Washington or the West Coast. But regardless, I mean, if you're going to buy one rod from Muskies, we work a lot of the sports shows and deal with a ton of different guys that come into the booth and say, hey, I want this, or that, or guys that come in and say, hey, I want one rod to do it all. What should I get? And I'm stuck between two. I can never make my decision between an extra heavy Stealth and an extra heavy Predator. I'm stuck on both of them. I definitely prefer a 10-foot rod personally. Maybe it's not I don't, if you're new to musky fishing, it shouldn't matter. There shouldn't be a thing. Well, I want to start with a 9-footer. I want to start with a 9.3 because you don't know any better at that point. You're not comfortable with an 8-footer or an 8.6. Just go to what is going to perform for you the best and make yourself comfortable with it, because whatever you fish with when you start musky fishing is going to be uncomfortable. There's nothing comfortable about a big giant reel, a big rod, and a 18-ounce lure on the end of your stick. There's nothing comfortable about that. So you're just going to have to learn to be comfortable with it. So new guys, I always try and push them to an 8-footer. Guys that come into the booth that are apprehensive about going to 10-foot, I try and get them to go as long as I possibly can, just due to all the benefits with it. But as far as the extra heavy Stealth versus extra heavy Predator, it depends. I think the kind of baits that you want to throw. If you edge on the bigger stuff, if you like throwing the bigger blades, the bigger rubber, the bigger top water, stuff like that, I would push people towards the extra heavy predator. And if you edge on the smaller side of things, I would push people towards the extra heavy stealth. They're both incredible. They both do things really well. The stealth is a little bit better bucktail rod. The predator is a little bit better rubber rod. So I would think it would kind of depend on the lures that you're going to be throwing. If you're a St. Clair guy and you come into the booth, I'm going to give you an extra heavy predator. This is the rod that you want. If you're fishing, northwestern Ontario, I'm going to give you an extra heavy stealth. You're going to be throwing a lot of small bucktails, mid-sized bucktails, top waters, some crankbaits, maybe a suic, and then mix in some smaller mid-sized rubber stuff, right? That's an extra heavy stealth. So it's hard. I wish I could say there was one or the other, but those are the two that I always get stuck with for sure.
Yeah, I would echo that. I got a couple 10-foot stealths last year, and I pretty much run the one all year for the majority of what we do, and it was an extra heavy. And I got one with the Revo reel seat because I did like that at first, and I had tried holding the foregrip a la Doug Wagner, and I could not do it for the longest time. And my buddy Matt Abel, who also, does a little bit of dabbling in behind the walls at Thorn, he got me to go to that. I think it's the full sin cork or Duracork or whatever they call it, front foregrip. And now that's how I rip my rubber, and anything that I'm ripping on, I'm holding the rod a lot like you are now. And it's become so natural that that's what I do. And that's from watching you. And that's also from Matt telling me, this is how Doug does it. You should probably learn how to do it this way. And I have, and I got those two rods, one with the Revo and one without. And I actually mentioned to Lonnie, I'm like, I might just bring this other one back and get you to rip that Revo reel seat off, because I just won't use it as such. I'd be better off to change it back to just a full palm.
You lose so much torque and power and leverage. So did you get the big foregrip, the fat foregrip? Yeah. So that's my handle. I will take full credit of that. And Ron Stern gives me crap for that. The first time he saw it, he's like, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, "It's super comfy. You don't have to grip your hand super tight. You don't lose the fatigue there." When I love to fish in the fall, and if you're fishing with gloves on, it's a much more relaxed feel in your hand. But there's so much more leverage up there. And I always palmed the reel. That's how I started musky fishing. That's just what I did. And when I started fishing more and more rubber, I was losing fish all the time. And it came down to three factors. I didn't have, the first thing was I needed the stiffest rod I could possibly have. And I'm still that way to this day. I still like the stiffest rod I can when I throw rubber. I needed the absolute fastest reel I could get. That helped me a ton, which we all know now. But the third thing that really helped was holding the foregrip and having that much more leverage and power on the fish. And it's no different than choking up on a baseball bat, is how I explain it to customers. It gives you that much more control, and power is a big thing, especially driving hooks with rubber. And I mean, I don't even know if you can say driving hooks with rubber unless you're maybe talking about a tube, because they latch onto it and you can't move it, right? So I love that, that half wells, 2-inch Duracork, big giant, they call it the Doug grip or whatever they want to call it at the store now. But that's the grip that I really liked. I like it at 5 inches. They used to be 5.5. I cut it back to 5. It's a little shorter because I like having my index finger actually on the blank itself.
Me too.
So you get that little bit extra feel. I mean, those rubber bites, you're just looking for that little tick, right? The smallest little tick. And you need to be on edge at all times and just corked up, ready to unload on a bite. I mean, that's my favorite part about rubber, is just literally reeling down and just giving them everything you got. Just makes my day. But yeah, there's so many little things that go into it. But the as far, like you said, with rubber, I mean, I think I still fish my suics palmed on the reel, but anything that's rubber, or other pull pause stuff for me is all in the foregrip. And then all my bucktails and top waters are just palmed on the reel.
I'm not sure where I heard this, but I think there was this old wives' tale that don't grab in front of the foregrip on the rod when you're trying to guide the fish into the net, and don't hold it up there to try and hook set. And I don't know if that's something that the quote unquote old timers thought of with the old graphite rods. If you loaded it up too much there, they would break. I honestly don't know. I just remember when I was getting into musky fishing, people would be like, "Oh, don't grab the front of, don't grab in front of the foregrip to guide the fish into the net." And it was just something that a lot of the people around us was just palm the reel and kind of guide it in, but I'm like, you just have no leverage on it.
Nothing.
And when we started fishing more rubber, obviously, like it was, the bulldogs, the medusas, the toads, and then when we started getting into the tubes, and I fished with Mike Grant years and years ago when he was first started fishing tubes, and I was like, that just looks like the most useless piece of turd in the water, and he was catching fish. And it took me a long time to buy into tubes. And now I tell people I could probably fish a tube from opener right until freeze up.
Yeah.
I would have that much confidence.
Yep.
But grabbing the foregrip, and like you say, that finger almost over the front of the foregrip, so it's like on the blank, like you're doing, it does give you that little bit of sensitivity that when you feel that small little pull on that pause, you feel it. And it's those little things, especially in a custom rod, you can have it tailored exactly to what you want. So I do give you some credit on that. And I did push back on that. I'm going to grab the foregrip, but Matt Abel kind of pounded me down. He's like, you got to try it. And now that's just second nature to me. But that leads me into the next kind of topic. And I wanted to talk to you about rubber because you were certainly known as, the bulldog guy, the rubber guy, and tubes, obviously, but a lot of people know you for the bulldogs. And I'm not even sure what the question's going to be here, Doug, because there's two things I want to ask you about it. And they're kind of two different topics, but let's just start with how natural was it for you to start, relying on rubber, and where did that come from? Because that's not a Green Bay thing. You didn't learn that on Green Bay. That's obviously, the Shield Lakes, like Vermilion. Where did that start for you?
I mean, I hated rubber. I hated rubber growing up.
Me too.
I was a bucktail guy. That's all I wanted to catch them on were bucktails because it was so easy and simple, and the hookup ratio was great. I would say I really started to fall in love with rubber in that 2014 time frame, 2013, 2014, casting open water on Vermilion was where it hit home for me. Casting husky deuces in the open water and Green Bay. I mean, honestly, so the Bay, out of the last 4 years, 3 of them have been dominated by bucktails. But prior to that, we have a great rubber bite on the Bay. We used to have a really good rubber bite in the Bay. It's kind of dimmed off the last couple of years. This last year kind of came back. We got some fish on, had some nice fish on mag dogs, some nice fish on pit bulls. The toad was a big deal by us 5 years ago when the toads first came out. Oh my God, there was a lot of fish that died because of toads. They were too good. The rubber stuff kind of came from Green Bay, and I was a Medusa guy when I started. That perch Medusa in a regular size gave me at the time, the best day of musky fishing I'd ever had. And honestly was the reason that I got a job guiding was because of one day on Green Bay, first week in October. It was a full moon and everybody was trolling. I didn't have the money to buy all the trolling crap. And I just had a really good summer casting, and I took a couple buddies out. We went and fished some weed lines in October when all the fish were supposed to be gone a month and a half ago, and we're supposed to be out in the sand. And we went down a weed line without a boat in sight, which on Green Bay is incredibly rare, and caught a 49.5, a 51, and a 51.5 throwing perch Medusas. And that was kind of where, I'd already liked them, but I really fell in love with them there. And then honestly, I didn't catch my first muskie on a bulldog until 2018, which is absolutely hilarious to think, because now I probably catch just as many fish on bulldogs as I do on bucktails, and just as many fish as I do on tubes. I think those 3 lures are definitely my bucktails, tubes, and topwater, or bucktails, tubes, and bulldogs are now my best producing lures, hands down. But I was a Medusa guy to start, and then I've kind of switched to a dog guy. Then I kind of switched to a tube guy. And I don't know where I really lie now, because this last season I caught a ton of fish on Medusas, a ton of fish on bulldogs, and a ton of fish on tubes, and a bunch on bucktails and topwater. I just had a fun year. Had a fun year last year.
Do you think fishing from the back of the boat changes what it is you're throwing? Because obviously,
100%.
if you follow the common sentiment, you know, that fast bait up front, something maybe a little different in the middle, and then the back guy, meaning the guide, is going to fish, you know, that cleanup spot. I love throwing rubber at the back of the boat. I fish from the back even when I'm just fishing with Dave or friends or whatever. And I just think rubber, it just gives you so many options on where you want that bait to be in the water column. Was that part of, you know, why rubber became so useful for you, Doug?
I mean, I always fished out of the front until I started guiding. My boat was set up to fish out of the front. I fished Vermilion out of the front of the boat. I fished Green Bay out of the front of the boat. I fished everything out of the front of the boat until 2018, when I started guiding, and then I, got a new boat and set it up to fish out of the back, um, to do the, the guiding setup, or the guide setup, which really, like you said, now, I mean, even when I talk to people about fishing by themselves, if they're going to musky fish, the back of the boat's the place to be, for
Yeah.
sure. You're lower to the water, everything's more stable. We all know that. But it's definitely easier to fish rubber out of the front of the boat. You're not nearly as rushed. It depends, what structure you're fishing.
Mhm.
I think the drag of the boat, especially in the summer, helps keep that lure up a little bit once your bait gets behind the boat, so you don't have to worry about as much snagging. If you're fishing shield stuff where you're dealing with rocks and snags, it's easier to fish out of the back of the boat. But yeah, I mean, you have your standard cadence, or your lineup of how I like to run spots, and the order of baits that I like to go through a spot, and how I like to go how I like them to go through a spot. Definitely bucktail first. A lot of times bucktail, bucktail rubber, bucktail crankbait rubber, top water bucktail rubber. But it's being in the back of the boat. A lot of my fishing now has just become rubber.
Yeah, me too. And I think it's twofold. One, again, like I say, I like that I can place that in the water column where I feel, you know, whether I need to, you know, be quicker, a little bit slower. I do like a lot of dive and rise from the back of the boat, you know, whether it's a Suic or something. But again, that comes down to the speed of the boat. You can't run a real slow dive and rise out the back of the boat and, you know, expect to be super productive. You are not known for using a lot of dive and rise, and like Jesse says, Doug's not going to use this Suic, so I might as well use it. Is that just something that you have never really fallen in love with? Like you said, you were fishing with Forrest, and you guys were, you know, using a lot of Suics. Why is it that you're not really known as that dive and rise guy?
I just don't throw them enough. And it was, when I fished with Forrest, he loves Suics and he likes to throw them, so he would throw them. And then I kind of met Jess, and Jess threw Suics long before I came around and liked them. So it was kind of her bait and her deal. And I've got some really nice Suics. I think Mike's a great guy. He makes a great bait, and I've caught some amazing fish on Suics. I don't I don't think I have a 50-incher on a dive and rise, which is, or I think most other bait caught categories I do, but I don't think dive and rise and glide baits. I don't know 50 on a glide, but um, I don't know. It just it's not kind of, I don't know if I would say it's not my style. It's not my thing. Um, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think it's so similar to a crankbait that I would probably rather throw a crank than throw a suic. Um, and it's not because I think it's a better lure. It's just a confidence thing, and what I've thrown and what I've had success with. Um, I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know why. I guess maybe I just let everybody else throw it. And I've got some, I've spent a ton of money on bar fighters and all the other, I've got just about all the dive and rise baits, but I don't. They're in my boat. They're always in my boat. I just never reach for them.
There's a couple things there. You can only throw one bait at a time, right? Like we all know that, and it's you fall into those confidence baits, and you can only, you know, you can only use so much. Like I say, I could throw a tube all year. I could throw a Royal Orbit all year. I could throw probably a toad all year. It or like last year was a pit bull. I could have threw that all year. So it comes down to confidence. I want to take the conversation of rubber, and I might be wrong here, Doug. I'm not 100% certain on this, but from my vantage point, the companies that you work with, whether it's in a full official capacity or just, working, dealing with them, somebody like working with Brad Rue and using that Musky Innovations Bulldog, you're known for, using the Bulldog, you're known for using, like you say, the Medusa, work close with Mark at Red October. You work with these big companies, and again, I'm not going to compare myself to you, but I've felt that when you want to work with the best companies in the industry, they're the ones that are going to be best suited to help you, achieve whatever goals you are. And they're the most solid, on their feet companies. Was that a decision that you made early on to just to work with like the really big companies? Like, to me, from my vantage point, it doesn't look like you are throwing a lot of those quote unquote boutique baits that you see at the show, the new builders. You don't really hear a lot of, oh, Doug Wagner's throwing this prototype from XYZ builder in Minnesota. Like, is that something that, am I making that up? Is that real? Is that, what's your thoughts on that?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, I think you could look at a company like Musky Frenzy. When I started with Musky Frenzy, you could argue that they were one of the smallest bucktail companies and one of the least known bucktail companies around. Mayhem was still booming at that point. Spanky was super well established. There was other bucktail brands that were out there, and I just, me and Nick hit it off, and it worked out well. And look where Musky Frenzy is now. You could argue they're the biggest bucktail company out there, right? If you go by Thorn Brothers sales, he is. But I don't, there's, as far as the Brad thing, with innovations or even with Mark, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say that, I'm not interested in what other people are doing, because that's not the case at all. I mean, there's plenty of cool baits, that are out there. And some of them I picked up and some of them I've used and done well with. And I don't have any shade against anybody. And I think, I don't want to be looked at as someone who only works with the companies that are really big and really well established, because that's not who I am. And I'm not going to look down on anybody that's not well established or isn't selling tons of baits or doing it full time for a living. Because like I said, when I started with Musky Frenzy and started throwing their baits, Ronastrand told me they were a cool bait. You need to check these things out. You should try them. And I started catching fish on them, and Nick reached out to me, and we went from there, and look where we are now. But I think it's really hard to argue with. One thing that I do like and do kind of pride myself on is I like working with brands that are originals. They've come up with, they started something, or they came up with the idea. I don't like things that are, I would say, knocked off or copied in a sense. I don't want to say any names, but there's certain brands, and I'm not even talking lures at this point, but there's things out there that someone came up with the idea, but then someone else said, oh, I can do it cheaper, or I can do it and sell it at a cheaper rate or price and do it better. Whether it's, I mean, if you do want to say names, you take a Bulldog versus a Super D from Tackle Industries, right? Brad was the guy that came up with the Bulldog. You look at a Super D, it's basically the exact same thing, but it's knocked off. It's $8 cheaper. They're all poured in China now, whatever it may be, right? You look at a just-in-case tackle box, and then there's a wreck and rack box, right? I mean, there's so many things in the industry, and I don't want to say I pride myself off of working with the originators. You look at Nick with the one-piece clevis, or with that fluted or that hybrid Indiana blade. I mean, look how many people now are using Nick's same hybrid Indiana blade on their bucktails. There's a lot of them out there if you want to look. Mm-hmm. Plenty of companies that are doing it. And now there's a one-piece clevis that's out there, and there's another person that tried to make a one-piece clevis. There's plenty of other lures out there. So I would say I don't want to say I pride myself on working with the originals, but I like working with people that came up with the idea themselves. Look at the beaver. The beaver is still one of the coolest musky baits out there, and there's still nothing like it. No one's successfully knocked off the beaver yet. The closest thing you could argue would be like a Angry Dragon, or that bucktail with the chatter blade. It was a jointed bucktail. That's the closest thing you could come to with that. But like, the beaver is such an amazing fish catching lure and just such a unique lure, and it's in a category of its own. It's a pull pause, but it can be a straight retrieve. A beaver's a beaver. There, you can't put it in a category. It's not a bucktail or a crankbait or a topwater. It's a beaver. So I wouldn't say that, you know, I don't know. I don't know what I want to say there, but I like working and respect the people that came up with certain things that have stood the test of time and are just good lures. If you look at what Mark makes with Red October, right? I mean, there was a tube, I think Lindy made a tube before Red October back in the 90s. But you know, that's long faded away, and look what Mark's done now with the tube, right? And then there's Waterwolf and there's whatever else. But there, I mean, you can go on and on and on and on, right? But
That's right.
It's cool. I respect the guys that have come up with the idea, done it the right way. And I'm not saying I love innovation. I think innovation is really cool. I think the kid that's making those the kind of Orba thing, the Zilla baits, those things are freaking cool. I bought one of those at the Minnesota show because you rip tails off of Orbas and then you can't really get them to replace the right way. And the hookup ratios, not for me, hasn't been great on Orbas. I love throwing them, but I think that Zilla bait is freaking cool. I mean, it's a gladiator, I think is what he calls it.
Yeah. We picked a couple up from Cole too at Milwaukee. And yeah, I think it's a really cool take on a bait for us up here. The Royal Orba, we've caught a ton of fish on those things, and I've never felt that the hookup percentage was down. I just straight retrieve it like a bucktail. I don't do a lot of pull pause stuff with it. I know some of the guys do stuff a little bit different, and you get that head hunting on it. I questioned Cole about putting that hook above the head on the Gladiator, and he's like, no, that's where they're hitting it in Minnesota. It just, I know different areas are, you know, fish have different tendencies. To back up the working with, you know, these bigger companies or, you know, the more well-established companies, or working with somebody like Nick and taking Frenzy to basically a whole new level. Do you think, this is a broad question, do you think as a guide that your job in the boat to get your clients fish is a job where you can spend a lot of time trying new lures and testing? I know a lot of bait builders want to get them in the hands of guides because they spend so much time on the water, but being a full-time guide, do you feel that you can afford a whole lot of time to trying new lures that are not proven? You're going to get something great every once in a while, but there's going to be some that just don't work for you. You mentioned the beaver bait. I've had zero success on a beaver bait, and I've fished with Matt Abel a lot. And, you know, Matt catches a ton of fish on them. I just can't get that thing to work the way I feel that it's going to work. And I don't badmouth it as a lure. It's clearly proven. It just doesn't work for me, or I haven't found that sweet spot. But, you know, going back to the question, Doug, do you think that you can spend a lot of time as a full-time guide testing and trying new stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I can in the back of the boat. My job's not to catch. What I always say is, you know, my job's not to catch the fish. My job's to find out what the fish aren't biting. I want to go through all the lures and find out what they're not eating, so that I know we're throwing the right lures, right? A lot of times, especially that's the case on Green Bay. Like, our fish on Green Bay are hands down the most color picky, the most attention to detail fish that I've ever been able to spend a lot of time on. I know Vermilion's a lot like this too, and a lot of the great things in musky fishing come from Lake Vermilion. But you know, I do a ton of tinkering with bucktails. I build a ton of bucktails. I was building lures. I got home tonight and I spent 3 hours in my garage building bucktails. That's all I did for 3 hours. And it's like, where did the time go? I spent 9 hours the other day building bucktails. I've got 40 bucktails sitting on a bench right now, all twisted up with all the different bells and whistles and things that I'm going to try and play with and see if they work. And if they don't work, you cut them apart and you rebuild them next year. And don't get me wrong, they're just going to get thrown in the rotation with a frenzy here or there, and you know, see what all goes on. But I'm always tinkering, I'm always playing. And you know, if there's a customer in the boat that sees a bait and they're like, hey, I really want to throw that Gladiator, can I try that thing out? Sure, have at it, right? And then if we go for, you know, a little while and nothing's happening, or we got some weather moving in, or a moon or a major or something, like, hey, I know that bait's really cool and you're digging it, but you should probably really put this thing back on. This has been, this bucktail's been the deal, right? So it's not something that I put on my customers so much, but something more that I would take on myself unless they reach out and say, "Hey, I really want to try that lure."
That's interesting. I've always wondered that because I know as a guide you can from the back of the boat you can throw whatever. I when I'm fishing with Dave or my brother-in-law Richie, I stick to kind of, what I know. I fish a lot, but I'm obviously not full-time guide hours on the water. So we're trying to maximize our time and I'll go to my confidence lures. But there's days where it's just slow and Dave and I will go through every lure in the box and you might find that sweet spot or you find a bait like the beaver bait that, oh, it's never worked for me. I'm going to give it one more shot. And you do something a little bit different with it. And all of a sudden, holy crap, now I'm catching fish on this bait that you just about give up on. And I tell people that try and give yourself like 20% of your time for the average angler, like the weekend angler. Stick to what you know, give yourself 20% of your day to try something new, a different presentation, maybe a different speed, maybe a lure that you didn't, think that you would use, like a crankbait. I think crankbaits are super underused. And even for us, we don't use them enough. So you have to be willing to at least expand your knowledge base on lures because it's so easy to just stick to 6 lures all year. And like you look at your social media, and it's like, oh, another one on an IC7, oh, another one on an IC7, and it's easy to think that that's all you throw. And we know that you don't. But how many times do you throw something, Doug, before it's like, okay, this is just not going to work for me, and you just give up on it, or all of a sudden it comes to you? Like, where do you draw the line on something like that?
Um, I don't know. It's tough. Like, I don't know. It's hard to draw the line. Like, I wouldn't. There's not a. I'm trying to think of a bait that I can't like. I mean, I'm not a glider guy. I think people know that. I just made a post literally about an IC7 and a glider. I had a customer wanting to throw a
Yeah.
glider, and he's in the front of the boat. It was his first day on Lake of the Woods, and he had just got home from a trip he did to his local lake, and he was catching them on glide baits. He was all fired up about his glider. He's like, I brought all my gliders. I'm going to catch them on gliders. I was catching them last week on gliders. I'm like, screw you. You're in the front of the boat. It's July. You're on Lake of the Woods. You're throwing a bucktail. Like, get that shit out of your head. And we're like 3 hours into our trip, right? And things were slow. He got in, and all of a sudden, here comes one freaking hot on it. First turn, eats it. Like, screw your glide bait. I'm done with it. But I don't know. I wouldn't say there's lures that have really. So bar fighters have really fought me. I'm not a great bar fighter fisherman, I would say. And the croc was another bait that I tried and a lot of that was faulty. I don't want to say design, but performance out of the croc. There's some crocs that are absolutely unreal. And I know guys that have like special ones that like they run right, they're perfect. And you just have that with musky lures. That just is what it is. But I say the dive and rise and the glide bait stuff is probably my weakest link in my musky fishing. I wouldn't say that there's a certain amount of time that I give something before I, take it off the table. I still have glide baits in my boat. I still have bar fighters in my boat every single year. All those options are always there, or, 2 feet away from me or underneath my feet in my box. But I don't know. I haven't really, I would say, cut anything totally out of my fishing. I'm trying to bring more and more things into my fishing. Because once you think you know it all, or once you start to block things out, that's when you quit learning. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't learn something, see something, understand something better, think of something new. There's a lot of, the hamster's always spinning up there for sure.
Question: have you tried the scallywag from Lumox Lures up in
Mhm.
Canada?
Heard of
Um,
them.
Talk to Matt Abel, get him to send you one to try. It's when you put maximum weight in it, it's fishes a lot like a bar fighter, but it has that side to side like a deep glide, and it will hang and hang and hang from the back of the boat. Like when we fish up on Peralta or the west arm of Eagle, I caught a huge fish on Eagle on one. Actually, it rolled, broke my Thorn Brothers rod, but it just has this bar fighter ish movement in the water with a little bit of a like a nose glide. It doesn't really glide, it just kind of darts around while it's kind of up and down. It's
Cool.
really unique. It's one that when you look at it, you're like, it looks like a lot of other things, but it does something unique enough in the water. And I know Matt's got a few of them. So next time you're like through Minneapolis there, maybe see if you can get one from them to try, because I think it's something that I'm not a glide guy neither. Like it's like my Achilles heel. I'll throw them, caught some fish on them, caught some nice fish, but it's just not, oh, I'm going to grab a glide bait and try it. But that one, I think, again, from the back of the boat, it's the type of lure that really seems to excel in that position. You can fish it slow if the fish are very neutral. It it does a lot of different things. It's almost hard to explain, but when you see somebody use it, it looks so unorthodox. But I've watched Ron catch fish from the back of their boat and be like, where did that fish come from? Like it was
Mm.
nowhere around, and it just, they come straight up from the bottom to hit it. So I think that's one that if you're looking for something different, I would recommend at least having a look at it. It's a very unique lure.
Can
Um,
can we give Mike Grant a shout out in the comments
yeah, I see
for
Mike's.
for basically inventing the bladed tube? Mike Grant was the whole reason I started throwing a bladed tube. He reached out to me in 2018 and was like, "Hey man, you need to do this." But now he's giving away all the tube secrets. But you can't yell at him because he came up with it.
Yeah, I see Mike's. I chat with Mike a lot here. He's like, say hi to Doug for me. Nice to see this side of the legend.
Oh,
And Mike's somebody I've been trying to get on. I had Heinrich on here and we had a great talk. I've been trying to get Mike, but he's too humble to be this humble to come on, but I'll get him on one day. And
someday.
he's one of those guys when you fish with him in the boat, he's so calm. We did like a marathon day on Eagle quite a few years ago. He got like 42 in the morning. We got a 48 before lunch, and then seeing some absolute pigs that day. I mean, as far as Eagle Lake goes, two fish in a day is a great day, right?
Mhm.
And just watching somebody like Mike have so much confidence in a tube, in a bulldog, in blades, it it
I didn't know he
really
threw anything else.
he does. He's pretty handy with the blades too. But just watching somebody like that, and I've told a lot of people, go fish with better people, hire a guide. Obviously, like I've got, people are messaging me, oh, I'm fishing with Doug on Monday. I'm fishing with Doug next week, whatever the case is. It You'll learn so much when you fish with somebody that's at least on your level or better, and you pick up those little things. And for me in my musky journey, the hardest thing for me to learn was confidence, or to figure out how
Mhm.
to get it in the boat. And now, I have people tell me, oh, you have so much confidence from the back of the boat. Well, it's that years of experience. And again, I don't have the experience you have, but I have a lot more than just the average weekend angler. So it
Yeah.
experience only comes with time, and you have to put yourself in positions like you said earlier, Doug. Go to Lake of the Woods, go somewhere where you're going to get a lot of encounters. Don't go to the west arm of Eagle and spend a week and think you're going to come out of there being a better
Yeah.
musky angler, because you're going to get maybe one shot a day, like a legit maybe one shot a day. You're not going to become a better angler. But you go to Woods, you go to Indian Lake Chain, Cedar Lake, you're going to get, you know 10 to 15 encounters a day and probably 3 to 5 legit shots at fish. You'll
Yeah.
learn a lot there, right? Um,
100%.
as we start to wrap this up, I had a couple questions from some of our Patreon subscribers, and James had asked me on there. He's like, Doug, what is it that drives us and drives somebody like you to go so deep into this, that after so many, like all these years, you still have that passion for it? And then he asked, do you think the technology is starting to dim that passion for you or for the sport in general? And we talked off the air. I don't want to go down the forward facing sonar debate. And I did say to Doug before we hit record or hit live that I was going to bring it up, but I think we're going to skip that because this conversation's been about a lot of other things. But what drives that passion, Doug? And do you think that technology debate is a black eye on musky fishing right at the moment?
I mean, as far as what drives me, I don't. I just. I still just. I love the fish. I love figuring them out. I love catching them different ways, but more so, I love catching them in different places. Is really where I've been able to keep the amount of passion that I have for it going. Is the amount of traveling that I do. Because if I had to fish Green Bay from opener to close every single day, I would burn out. I would not be fishing nearly as hard as I am right now. I wouldn't be fishing. I can take Green Bay in spurts, and I absolutely love it here. This is my home, I would say. This is where I've had caught some incredible fish, and had some amazing days in the water. But it is not for the faint of heart. It's a very tough, can be a very tough fishery. You deal with a lot of other factors, and traveling is really what's made it fun for me. I can come to Green Bay for, a month or a month and a half in the summer and put my head down and just say, okay, I'm here to try and catch a 57 incher. This is what I'm here to do. This is my goal. And I can put my head down for, 30 or 45 days in a row and do that. But outside of that, I need a week. I need a week on the woods. I need a week on Pipestone. I need, some adventuring like I did last year, and to go out east or to go here, to go there. And I need that, because it it just rejuvenates me. It gets the wheels turning. It gets me excited about things. It gets me thinking about things in different ways, and to experience different fisheries makes you such a better angler. And not only like fishing multi-species makes you such a better angler, but also fishing, whatever species you really love in different locations makes you a really good angler as well. And the new series that we started, the bucket list, right? I mean, that's going to go down a road of, there's a lot of places on my bucket list that I want to get to. There's a lot of things that I want to do and places I want to go and chase these fish. And without those locations, if I had to fish one place and I can't fish Lake of the Woods every day. I can't. Once I'm on Lake of the Woods for the summer and I'm there for 30, 40 days, I'm ready to go somewhere else. I need a change. I love it, and I love exploring, and I love that I get to fish new spots every single day. I make a point to fish new spots every day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't fish a new spot, or 10 new spots, or a full day of fishing new spots. That I love the exploring aspect of it, and there's so much left to explore. There's a lifetime of water on Lake of the Woods, don't get me wrong. But I love catching them in other places. I love saying that, I've caught a 50 incher on X amount of different lakes in northwestern Ontario. I love that. I love that. It's super fun. I love seeing how they react to lures on certain bodies of water better than others. You say you crush them maybe on Eagle or your surrounding lakes on Orbas. I catch them on Lake of the Woods on Orbas, but I lose more fish than I catch on Orbas on Lake of the Woods, right? There's just some lakes that they bite certain lures better than others, and they like certain patterns other than others on different lakes, and that just makes you a more well-rounded angler overall. And the exploring is what's really made it special for me, and what keeps the fire going for me.
For us, we've struggled with what to do with our channel for a while, and for a while there, it was a personal struggle for me to, like you, it was so much work to put in versus what you felt like you were getting out. But once I started doing these lives and talked to some of my heroes in the muskie industry, it rejuvenated me. And I have a plan for our content this summer that we're going to explore northwestern Ontario, whether it's big water, small water, skinny water, off the beaten path water. I might do a canoe trip with my buddy Kevin Wagner and fish for muskies in like essentially a mud puddle. We're going to do something different because I feel the same way. I can't fish Eagle Lake every day. I cannot beat myself up out there when it's tough. It's just tough, 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 tough. And I need to fish Cedar. I need to go fish Indian Lake Chain. We need to fish Eagle. Like we try to balance it out. But this year I want to do something different with it too, because I think that that challenge or that excitement of doing something a little bit different. I haven't been up to long-legged Stork Lake for a number of years, and we kind of cut our teeth up there. That's a lake I want to go back up to now that, we feel like we're better anglers, we better equipped to go up there and have some success again. So I kind of echo that statement of, just trying different places is exciting. And for us, it's not big destination trips. It's going to fish Wabagoons 20 minutes from my house, pavement to pavement. And yet I don't fish Wabagoon just because it has, a weird reputation, and it's dirty water, which we don't like. We tend to gravitate to the clearer water. That's where Dave and I are more familiar. So there's a lot of things we want to do. But the second part of James's question, like, where do you think this technology debate is going to go without going into the weeds? Do you think that just on the surface that it makes musky fishermen look like a bunch of whiners to the public? Like, that's what it feels like sometimes on social media, is that we just can't get out of our own way when it comes to what technology is acceptable and not acceptable.
I think it's, I think it's no different than anything in life. With, anything in moderation is okay, but anything over the top is too far and not healthy. Um, I think this wouldn't be. There's a couple people I think that have, or a couple. I don't want to say people, but a couple instances I think that have wrecked it for a lot of people or put a really bad rap on it. And the sad thing is that humans are greedy. We can't say enough is enough. We can't put a limit on what success is. We're always driving to catch more and bigger and this and that and the other. And um, I love the technology side of things. I think I'm known for a lot of side imaging things, which you could, was a piece of technology that came about right about when I started guiding, is when mega side imaging came out. 2017 is when mega side imaging came out. I got my first unit in 2018 when I started guiding with mega side. Um, the issue is it's, I don't want to say it's too good, because I do have forward facing sonar. I've used forward facing sonar. I was against forward facing sonar for a long time, completely. And I do think it's just, you have to use it, but be conscious of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And there's plenty of people that don't care. They have no respect for the fish. They have no respect for any rules or guidelines that have been put in place. And there's not even any rules on it yet, but guidelines that are in place because they think that, oh, well, it's just fine, or someone else is going to do it anyways, so why can't I do it, or why do I have to be the good guy or the bad guy? So it's a really slippery road. It's incredible technology. I mean, all of it together. I mean, AutoChart's incredible. I absolutely love
Yeah.
AutoChart. AutoChart is my best friend,
Yeah,
um,
us too.
especially with, all the exploring and side imaging. And the forward facing stuff is another dimension to that. Like I said, the problem is that it's getting used in ways that I don't think are healthy for fisheries, in certain instances or in certain applications. And we can look at some of the stuff that the lenders have done to show that, there are negative effects to it. And, there's barotrauma issues, there's depth issues, there's water temperature issues. And um, if anybody should be concerned about it, it should be musky anglers. We deal with the most fragile fish that swim in fresh water. So I think, it's a moderation thing. And I think if you're like, the thing that, if you're just a one-sided angler, you only do, like, if I could only catch them on a top water lure, would I be sitting here? If I could only catch them on a bucktail, would I be sitting here? If I could only catch them on
Mhm.
a bulldog, right? Like, all that stuff is a tool in your tool bag. But if you take one of those tools away, what are you? Are you like, it's a tool. I think it's cool. I've learned a lot from all the different pieces of technology, regardless if we're talking about auto chart, side imaging, Mega 360, live scope, any forward facing or whatever you want to call it. I've learned from all of it, and I know I'm a better angler today and understand more about muskies because of all of that technology. but there are plenty of ways where, it can be negative on fisheries, 100%. And if you
Yeah.
truly want to put the fish first, what's the answer to the question?
Well, it's don't go fishing for them. And
Mhm.
we use forward facing sonar as part of what we do. It to us, it's side imaging for shield lakes because side imaging up here just does not show much in the rocks. So forward facing sonar is part of what we do. And I know there's the debate of is forward facing sonar even fishing? Like it you can look at any technology, and I've used the kind of analogy of when they put the night fishing ban on Eagle Lake, the walleye fishery was collapsing. And at that point in time, there was almost zero technology. There was no GPS mapping. There was just rudimentary 2D sonar. It was humans' insatiable need to conquer the walleye fishery that had that fishery on the verge of collapse, and the MNR put in the night fishing ban and some of the the slot sizes and stuff, and brought that fishery back to what it is today. So it's not just technology, it's the way we use it. And I think that we always have to be conscious if new people are coming into the sport and my kids want to try and cast at a fish on forward facing sonar, as long as I feel that it's in a position where we're not going to harm that fish, we'll try and take that shot at it. We're not going to harass the fish. It's not the debate for today. I just think that overall technology is super beneficial. You can learn so much from it. And when the new Navionics or Lake Master chips come out for Eagle Lake, I don't think any single piece of technology is going to exploit that lake more than when that 1 foot true contour map comes out for Eagle Lake, and people can go zooming into Boulder Bay or Spring Bay and find all those spots that it took Danny Herbeck a lifetime to auto chart. And it's just that's where technology is going, and we have to kind of learn to accept it and use it responsibly. And Dave and I have said to a lot of people that integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's looking. When Dave and I fish up here in late November, and last year we fished December 1st, it would have been real easy for us to run multiple rods, run multiple suckers, to do whatever we want. There's nobody up here even has a boat that they can put in the water to come rescue us. We had already made a plan. Like if things went sour, we were just going to put the boat on shore and we were walking out. So like we could have did whatever we wanted, but we don't. You have to have integrity and do that when nobody's watching. And I think that is where I think the muskie industry needs to self-regulate a little bit. We need to, as an industry, point the finger at these people that are kind of, giving it a bad name. Is that easier said than done? Yeah, of course it is. But I appreciate you being honest on that subject, Doug, because I know it's a hot button one, and we're not going to, solve any of those problems tonight. But one of the other questions I got as we wrap this one up was, if you could only throw 2 lures all season, what are you putting in the back of the boat with yourself?
2?
2. Yeah, Mitch asked, he's like, if you could
Not
only
even
throw
3? Fuck.
no, you gotta do 2. Actually, you know what? Funny thing, Dave and I did a 3 lure challenge a couple summers ago where we just took 3 lures, no hooks. So if we had to cut hooks, that was done. And it was actually a fun premise for a video. Surprisingly, we got 3 that day. No real shock in what we got them on. It was bucktails and spinner baits. But it when you limit yourself down, you focus in pretty hard on what you're doing because you don't have a lot of backup. So yeah, if you can only pick a couple lures to fish all summer,
All year or all
yeah,
summer?
all year, I think is what
Okay.
Mitch said.
8-9 stagger and a 10-inch mid-depth tube.
Yeah, I wouldn't stray very far from that neither.
That's just, yeah, that's what it is. It's just the bucktail's your friend from opener till you could throw it till middle of October, and then your tube you can throw all season. Then you can jig with a tube. You can do whatever you want with a tube. Superior versatility is truly what it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. I want to ask a personal question about you and Jessie and your family. Um, I've made it a point of including my family in with what we do. My girls are part of our channel and they help out on the videos and stuff, and they really like that. I have a hard time getting my wife to come in. She's so busy with Bobby's Sports Shop, and she just doesn't get as much time to fish as she would like. Behind me here, that's a set of her moose horns from a couple years ago.
Cool.
She's got another one that we got a European mount done. I'm thinking I might go and try and film one of her hunts with her brother next year. Of course, that'll be the year they don't get a 52 and a 53, but we'll
Yeah.
try. Um, I noticed that you don't talk a lot about family in your videos, like your personal family. Is is that just not something that you share your passion with, or am I just kind of off base there? Outside of you and Jesse, obviously there's a lot of you and Jesse on your channel and in your stuff, but what about your personal, your family?
I mean, I don't know. I never thought of like people wanting to know what that all entails. Like I feel like people are watching my stuff because they want to see muskies or walleyes or whatever it is that I'm doing. Um, and that's for me that's fishing. And I wouldn't say that there's no reason for it one way or another. Like I don't need to put everything about my life. I mean, it's funny. If you look at my personal Facebook page versus my business Facebook page. You look at my personal Facebook page. There's 4 years and maybe nothing. Like I post my boat for sale on there, right? Or maybe I'll share a video or two. But like if you look at my personal Facebook page, it's just if it wasn't, social media for me is it's a part of I enjoy doing it, but it's also turned into a business for me. Um, and there's plenty of things that I just keep to myself and kind of I don't know, you could say I'm somewhat of a reserved person in that sense. I mean, like you even said, if I wanted to blow everything up on the internet, I'd show the world the biggest muskie I ever caught.
Hmm.
But I kept that to myself. That's in my hard drive and in my phone, and there's a couple people that have seen it, and the world never will. So it's
Uh,
just there's things I keep to myself, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. It's not that it's a good thing or a bad thing. There's just some things are I put out there to the public, and some things I keep to myself.
I respect that. And I just wanted to ask because I
Yeah.
know for myself, I include a lot on, what it is we do as a family. And I just always kind of wondered if that was just a conscious decision on your part. And clearly with Jesse, there's a lot of you guys on your channel and what you guys do in social media. What's next for Doug and Jesse? Are you guys planning a family? I like obviously you don't have to tell me exactly what you're doing, but like that's the next logical step, are you guys going to do that? And where do Doug and Jesse go next? Like selfishly, I'd like to see the Doug and Jesse show. I mean, that I just think that's almost like
Yeah.
comedy musky fishing gold, but where do you guys go from here? And for a lot of people that don't know Jessie outside of just, seeing her on social media, she runs her own social media company, and people would be surprised to know how many companies she handles the social media for. A few of the companies I work with, I'm obviously sending, content to Jessie and her team. So it's somebody that I've, worked with behind the scenes a little bit too. So,
Mm.
where do you guys go next?
That's tough. We don't really. I mean, we don't really have a super solid plan. We've got I'm in the process of buying a house here in Green Bay right now, and we have our house on Lake of the Woods, and I think we're going to kind of bounce between those two in the future. And like I said, I mean, I still argue, or we talk about family and kids and whatnot, and we're trying to figure out when the right time to do all that stuff is, and it's not right now, and we're not huge. I mean, I'm definitely a planner. Like I have my schedule set. I know what I'm doing every single day from now until the end of November. But after that, I don't really know. And my wife totally flies by the seat of her pants, so she doesn't know what she's doing tomorrow, um, unless she has meetings or someone else has told her what she's doing tomorrow. But I don't know. I mean, Jess is killing it with her business. She's doing a ton of awesome social media stuff. She's got a handful of employees now they're working for, and she's doing a killer job, and she's expanding, and is just absolutely crushing it. I mean, the Musky side of things is definitely cool, and it's been cool to. I know she's some of the stuff you've sent her, she's really appreciative for, and it's really well done and makes her job a lot easier. But there's other companies that she works with where it's a lot more work, and it's not the Musky industry, and she's killing on that side of things. But we've got a bunch of trips planned for this year. We've got a bunch of really exciting stuff dialed in for this year. But yeah, I don't know. I'm starting musky fishing here on Saturday, and I'm going to work my freaking tail off for the next month so that I can take some trips this summer and do some fun fishing with my wife and some buddies. Kurt from Thorn, we're going on a trip and gonna get back to Eagle this fall. I'm excited for that, and I got a bunch of stuff, so I'm stoked. I got a lot of cool things in the works. Me and Jess got a lot of cool trips in the works. She's got some cool work stuff in the works. We expanded. Actually, we're working on it as we speak. It didn't actually get totally finished, unfortunately, tonight by the sounds of it, but we're launching a Facebook page which is very similar. It's going to be the same content that we put on our YouTube membership, but it's going to be on our Facebook page now. We're going to have a membership platform on Facebook if people are having trouble getting to it from YouTube, kind of create more of a community feel, public, not a public page, but a page that all of our members or subscribers can, mingle within and post in and talk to each other and do some stuff like that. So that's, as far as my side of things, what's up and coming for me is getting that Facebook page off the ground and continuing to roll the YouTube membership, which has been really good, and keep rolling with that. And now expand into the Facebook page, and we got a bunch of awesome content coming. We've got another long form video, like I said, coming middle of July or early July. I think I have it scheduled for in my calendar to post that to the world, and a bunch of fishing trips this year. I'm stoked. Musky Cup again this fall. So
cool. Yeah, Dave and I got to get back to the cup one of these falls here too. I would be totally remiss if I didn't ask this question. Was the thought ever between you and Jessie to buy her family's camp?
Funny story. So that was Jessie's like dream when I met her. She wanted to take the camp over, and she wanted to run the resort, and she wanted to carry on what her dad and her parents had done, and it was a family business. And I think this is the 15th year they've owned the camp. Her family's owned the camp. This is Jessie's first year not there in, I want to say, 8 years or 9 years. Her business has just got so busy, and being on a remote island and not having great internet connection all the time and service to deal with clients and customers, she had to step back from it. But I told her from day one, I want nothing to do with it. I don't want to run the resort, because I know enough resort owners and they don't fish. And I quit my job so that I could fish, because when you're a resort owner, you're fixing everybody else's stuff so that they can go fish. And hats off to the resort, and people that want to get into the resort business, think twice, because it is a ton of work. It is an incredible amount of workload. The skills you have to have is incredible. You need to be a jack of all trades. You need to be able to fix everything. You need to be able to deal with anything and everything at any given time. And it's a ton of work. And it's not that I, had anything against the camp. It's that my favorite time to fish is July to freeze up. And when you own a resort, you're working every single day, sunrise to sundown, from June till November. Yeah. So, and then you get your winters off, which is great. If you like to go to Mexico and lay on a beach and maybe go do some deep sea fishing or this or that, good for you. And maybe that's the lifestyle for you. But for me, I want to be musky fishing, and that just doesn't line up with the camp lifestyle in Northwestern Ontario, unfortunately, as far as ownership. And if you're going to just own it, but you're not going to run it, any place that's not family owned and operated normally doesn't last very long. You can't own it and have other people run it, because you're not there. No one's going to care about the place as much as you're going to. No one's going to care about your customers as much as you do. No one's going to take care of the cabins like you would. then the whole place is just going to go downhill, and that's going to reflect in your clients and your customers that are visiting there. And then it's not going to make it as enjoyable for them. And they'll go to the next place down the lake that's family owned and operated that has all those values and takes care of all the things like they do, because that resort is absolutely immaculate. It is incredible. I've been to a lot of resorts now, traveling around Northwestern Ontario, and hands down, Cedar Highland Lodge is the nicest resort out of all of them. Just incredible, but it is a ton of work. I get to see it firsthand. I get to do it. I've spent plenty of days on the island myself, fixing stuff and helping people and doing this and doing that. And like I said, hats off to any of the resort owners that do it, but it's not for me. And Jessie sees that now. Finally, she saw it. She saw the light. I call it. She saw the light about 4 years ago, and she's super happy now where she's at. She loves what she does, and it's going to give her freedom and give us freedom to go and do the things that we want to do.
Well, I appreciate the honesty there. We'll wrap this one up. My wife's texting me. She's like, your 45 minutes is up, or 54 minutes is up. I'm like, yeah, I know it was a while ago, but I appreciate it. You are going into your Green Bay opener. What can people expect as they go into it, especially the Green Bay guys? Like, what are you expecting this weekend, without giving the trade secrets away, but what's the feeling down there for the guys that are heading out for opener?
I think people should be excited. I think there's reason to be excited. We have it a little bit. We didn't necessarily have a late ice out. We just had kind of a cold spring, which is good for us. Keeps our fish in the tributaries, keeps them shallow, keeps them out of the main bay. I'm kind of bummed. I know I was watching the weather this week, and we did a big report on the membership channel of kind of like a Southern Wisconsin report. We did an Iowa report from Lens. We did a Northern Wisconsin preview with Suggs, and then I did a Green Bay preview. And looking at the weather on Tuesday, it looked like we were going to get a nice gradual warm up starting today into the weekend, and now it looks like this cold front's going to kind of stick around until about Monday. So I think there's still going to be plenty of fish shallow. There's going to be plenty of fish in the tributaries and the shallow spawning bays that they might be a little crabby on Saturday or Sunday, just due to still this cold front that we're dealing with. But there's still, I think, going to be a good amount of fish around. I think there's going to be plenty of fish to be had. I don't know if Saturday, Sunday is going to be the best day in order to catch them. It might be more of a Monday, Tuesday deal going into new moon. But I'm definitely excited. I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to get out the long rods and put the spinning rods away and get after some muskies. And I'm going to be here for 2 weeks. I'm going to go to Minnesota for 2 weeks, and I'm going to go to Canada.
Nice. All right, Doug, I appreciate this. Tell everybody where they can find you, and if they want to get signed up on the YouTube channel, or coming probably by, I'm guessing, tomorrow, to get signed up on Facebook.
Yeah, if you log into either your YouTube account or just go to your Facebook page, and then just search Doug Wagner Fishing either on YouTube or Facebook, you'll find the pages, and then there'll be either a subscribe button or a join button. You can click up on any of that stuff. We do weekly videos every single Wednesday. We upload informational content in regards to fishing content. If it's tackle tips, if it's anything and everything. We've uploaded over 200 videos in the last 2.5 years. And got some really cool stuff coming again this year. So if you're looking to learn more about musky fishing, I always tell people that, you can hire me for an 8-hour guide trip, but you would be much better off subscribing. It'd be a better bang for your buck to subscribe to the channel. There's more information in there that I can give you in an 8-hour guide trip for an absolute fraction of the price.
Awesome. Last question. If you could only fish one body of water from now until you had to put the rods down.
Good God, Glenn. That's horrible.
I know it's horrible, but if you could only fish one body of water, and whether it's chasing that elusive giant or the numbers, what would it be, and what would your reasoning be behind it?
Oh man. Okay, there's two. There's two that I really want. So I would really like to start. And honestly, if you look at watershed, So it's not a lake. I would call it. You could put me in a boat and something I could drag up a hill. I would probably start on Lake Vermilion, and then you can flow all the way down, eventually into Crane, and then into Rainy, and then Rainy into Woods, and then Woods into Monackey, and then you could even take a turn at Monackey and then go up the English River and go up towards Maynard and get up towards Tide and get up into Lac Sewell and then up into Adam Hay, and that would be one of the routes I would choose. I think you can even get, technically there is watershed that gets from the English River up to Stork. And then I think you could make that loop. That'd be one of my loops. But if you had to give me just one specific lake, I would probably have to choose Georgian Bay, just because I feel like it's the most untapped. I think it has the biggest fish in the world. And I don't think it has the longest ones, but I think it has the heaviest ones, the most impressive ones. I think I love the Great Lakes feature to Georgian Bay. I love the unknown factor. I love that it's hard. I love that those guys that are really good out there catch 30 fish a year. I love that factor. I have so much respect for those guys that fish the bay. And there's just so much to explore that hasn't been fished yet on Georgian Bay from Sault Ste. Marie all the way down. I think it's just an incredible body of water that is so overwhelming. I've never fished it. I've just seen pictures of it. I've heard stories of it. I want to go. I want to see it. It's definitely pretty high on my bucket list of places to go. But Georgian Bay, if I had to pick just one lake to spend the rest of my days on, it'd probably be Georgian Bay. And I'd lose the rest of my hair. Not that I have much hair left being a musky guide, but I would lose the rest of my hair on Georgian Bay.
Well, I'm right there with you. Follow-up question to that. When you're fishing waters like Georgian Bay, or you go to a place like Lac Sewell, or you fish the west arm of Eagle, and you know you're only going to have one shot a day, like one true legit shot, and you might only catch one fish a week, do you go into that knowing that I'm going to be okay with that? Or does that keep you up at night? Because for a lot of anglers, they'll say they're okay with only one shot out of 55, but they get out on the West Arm of Eagle, and after 2 days of not seeing anything, they just want to go anywhere where there's fish. How does Doug Wagner handle that?
I've been on those trips where, you have to mentally prepare yourself for it. And I think the one thing that I'm grateful for is that I get to catch a lot of muskies in a year. And I think that prepares myself for being able to go into trips like that, because I've done those trips where it's like, I'm going on this trip and I'm going to be happy if I catch one fish or if I get one opportunity. That's a lot easier to do when you've caught a lot of muskies, right? Like you're caught a lot that season, like the net thing that you talked about earlier, like 200. I don't keep track. I don't know, but I know it was over 250 fish. But it's easier when you've caught a bunch of them to be like, okay, I've caught enough. Now I just want to try and catch, a super giant. And that's even me coming back to Green Bay, right? Like I know I'm leaving Lake of the Woods where I'm catching, 3 to 5 fish on average a day. You've got your 10 fish days and you have your zeros and your ones on Woods too. But I'm leaving that to go and try and catch one muskie a day on Green Bay, but it could be a 57 incher. So you just said it's a mental game, and that's what doesn't get talked about enough, I think, in muskie fishing, is the mental side of it. And I think fishing Green Bay is really good for that, because it is such a mental mind fuck, like horrible. Like you watch guys in front of you catch fish, you watch a guy behind you catch a fish, you watch plenty of people catch fish. There's people all around you. Your bucktails are landing within 6 feet of each other with different boats, and like it's a app. You just need to totally just put the blinders on, control what you can control, focus on what you can control, and it's a mental game. That's so much of that I don't think gets talked about enough in muskies, is the mental side of it, because it is one of the biggest factors.
I think so too, and that's something I struggle with especially with something like going to Eagle. And my brother-in-law's got a cabin on Eagle, and we spend a lot of time there, and we're getting a lot more comfortable with that center section. But again, using that West Arm reference, we spent a lot of time there a few years ago, and we really had nothing to show for it other than some sightings of some just Leviathan fish that, would have broke the internet, but we didn't catch them. And I wasn't mentally prepared for that at the time. Now I think I'm a little bit more, but I'm still not there. That's tough. It's tough to get your mind into, I'm going to put the time in and I may not get anything for it. And as musky anglers, there's no success if you didn't put a picture on social media. So it's just a weird world we live in. But I do agree. I think people need to talk about that mental anguish we put on ourselves when you're going for something, extraordinary. Maybe that's something that you do this year. I'm not sure, but I want to wish you the best of luck this season, Doug.
Thank
I
you.
hope you have a
You as
great
well.
opener, and I want to see some more of you and Jessie. I want to see some more of Doug just being Doug. I think that's some of your best content. I think that's what people relate to the most. And I'll just say it, getting to know you a little bit, I'll eat a little bit of crow because I think I was hard on you in the past because I thought
I know you were.
you were more of a persona of yourself than you are. And the more I got to see you and the more I got to talk to you, the more that I like you as a person. And I just want to say that, doing that video you did with Jessie and just getting to talk to you, it changes perspectives. And I think that that's only positive as you build yourself and your brand. So best of luck this year. I hope, you guys do nothing but great things on the water. Tell Jessie, I hope she has great success with her company, and looking forward to seeing what you guys have in store this year and where you guys take your family in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. That means a lot. It was good to come on. I do it was funny, like I was talking to my dad today. Like I did so many of these right when I first started. I was kind of the new kid on the block or whatever, and people wanted to talk and this, that, and the other. And I did a podcast or did a lot of these with a bunch of different people. And for like 2-3 years, it was busy, busy, busy. And then there was like 2-3 years of silence. Like I didn't get any call. And I was like, oh, like I haven't got a call from so and so. I haven't got a call from them. I haven't got a call from them to do another podcast. And then all of a sudden this year, like I've done a ton in the last 3 months. I've done everybody just came back around, and it's like, oh, well, I guess maybe not everybody hates me. I didn't know what it was, or I didn't know what I did to piss everybody off. But no, it's good. It's fun to come on and talk. And I know it was a pain to get my schedule beat down. We've been trying to get this done for over a month, but you got a hold of me. I think it was in April, and I'm like, I'm not literally available until the end of May.
Well, and it worked out, and I appreciate you taking the time. And I'll just bring it full circle right back to the beginning. When I talked to Sarek, I was like, who is going to be the next person that is that spokesperson of the industry now that, that classic musky hunter group is slowly getting out of the industry? And a lot of people have said you're the next logical one. And for myself, I'm not sure it can be a full-time guide to be that personality that can be the face of the industry, because it takes so much work, like you say, with your editing and the time that goes into that. But you are certainly well on your way to being the face of this industry. Some will argue for, some will argue against, but I think you do enough to warrant being in that conversation, Doug. So best of luck this year. And I'd love to have you on again in the future, and we can talk some more, other subjects outside of just fishing. Cause I think the history, we didn't even touch on, your background in filming. I think there's so much to it. So again, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, man.
All right, guys, that was a long version of 54 minutes with insert name of legend here, and certainly a legend in the making, Doug Wagner. He can shake his head all he wants, but everybody knows he's one of the guys keeping this industry alive. So we'll catch you guys